Welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. My name is Luening, Horst Luening. I'm the master taster of Whisky.com. And today we have the frequently asked questions part 2. Here is a link to the first video. And if you would like to place a question, then please use the hashtag Whisky.com. WHISKYCOM and a hashtag in front. Place it wherever you like, on our website, in the forum, in the blog, or on Facebook, wherever, on YouTube, of course, wherever you post this hashtag Whisky.com, I will have a look at and decide which of these questions I will answer. The first one is, shall one pour or refill a whiskey in a glass decanter? They look wonderful, they are valuable, and you can place your favorite whiskey in such a wonderful, probably handmade or hand-cut decanter. Crystal glass, heavy, representing. Well, quite difficult. If you pour a whiskey from one bottle in another, then the whiskey will give air bubbles. You have to be very careful not to let the whiskey bubble and have air pockets in the whiskey where the surface between the oxidizing oxygen in the air and the whiskey is quite high, and the oxidization process, which typically moves forward quite slowly in a whiskey, will be accelerated by many times if you pour whiskey from one bottle in a decanter. So this is quite a dangerous thing to do. And the next one is, how is the cork or whatever you put in the opening of the decanter, whether it's from cork or it's glass or it's glass with a plastic around it, this stopper should be tight, because if it's just loosely fit, then you have the oxygen moving in and out, and of course alcohol is evaporating fast. You will lose ABV, and the taste of the whiskey will change. Okay, most of the whiskeys will turn smoother, but there are a few which move forward to be a stinker. So having a tightly closed decanter is important. And I don't think that I would like to have a plastic around the glass stopper. No, I don't like that, because those plastic is typically not the plastic from a cork, but a smooth plastic, and there are a lot of chemistries in these plastic seals. Typically, the more valuable, more expensive decanters have a polished section, or it's cut. So it's a ground joint, it's called officially in the chemistry. And with this ground joint, you have an angle for the stopper and an angle, exact the same angle for the decanter, and then the stopper will fit perfectly into the bottle. This is used for bottles used in chemistry, so that you have an airtight closure of the bottle. So this one is the decanter you have to go for. But there's more. You typically lose the information of the tube or the card box, and you lose the information of the label. So when I have a bottle of whiskey at night, and friends sitting around, and then we take the bottles, we take the card boxes and read on the back. What do they say? Is it rubbish or marketing blur or real things? So you lose this information if you pour it into a decanter. And the decanter, if you place it on your bar, on your open bar, there's the sunlight shining on the bottle, and typically the ultraviolet rays from the sun, they harm the pigments in the whiskey, and the whiskey will become clearer, not that colorful. It will decolor. Not a good idea. So I always place my bottles in the card box and put it in the shelf so that there is no impact from sunlight. I think that's it. Yeah, well, if you have friends and they say, we'll come to you and please have a good whiskey at night, we will drink it. And remember, we need ice and Coke. Then feel free to buy a reasonably priced whiskey for your friends, pour it into the decanter and give it as the best to your friends. But if you're sitting with one or two friends in the evening, talking deep, then the original bottle is the right one and not the decanter. That's it. Yeah, question 1. Next question. I'm often asked what I'm doing with my freshly opened bottles here. Well, I give them away to friends. I have no bar of a few hundred open bottles. No, not at all. Because, as I said, with a decanter, the whiskey will oxidize over the years, and then the taste of the whiskey will change. So I can't keep the bottles for years and years. And there's a rule, don't have more than 6 or 12 bottles open. Depends on how many bottles you drink in a year. So I always taste half a centiliter or a full centiliter of whiskey, and this 250 times a year, not every evening. I put them together. You can see it with my shirt, how many I take in an evening. And these amount of whiskey represents 250 centiliters, or equal 2.5 liters of whiskey in a year at roughly 45% ABV. Means, well, more than 1 liter of pure alcohol in a year. This is not too much, but it's also not neglectable. The average alcohol consumed in Western countries, not in the US is less, but in the western part of Europe, it's typically 10 liters of pure alcohol per year per average person. And there are some million or tens of million deaths in the European community every year due to alcohol. So you have to stay well below this average, say 2 liters, 2.5 liters a year. So I stopped drinking beer completely decades ago. But from time to time would like to have a glass after dinner, of wine after dinner. This I have to count also. So there's only a small chance that I keep 1 or 2 of those bottles here. So most of them I have to give away due to health reasons. Yeah, this is the reason I'm not able to ship them somewhere. I'm not able to fill samples from those bottles. No, not at all, because there are legal restrictions on shipping open bottles. And if you refill in sample bottles, then you have to have a extremely clean room. Then you have to be certified for handling with food, red tape work You can't believe it. And there are legal things. If you write the name of the distillery on that bottle, there might be a problem with the trademark, which is on the name. I know of a legal struggle where a distillery had forbidden a semi-professional to refill whiskey from big bottles in small samples and write the name on it. Yeah. The third question is about giving points to a whiskey, quality points. Can't you tell us how many points you would give this whiskey? In a range of 0 to 100 points, and typically only 50 to 100 is given, because otherwise you wouldn't have opened that bottle if it's not at least 50 points worth. So, shall I give 86.5 points to a whiskey? There is a little quality judgment from me for every whiskey I taste here. And the first is, if I sip a whiskey only once, and then I have my talk and find the aftertaste and blur, whatever, and then I say, well, this is a blah, 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 blah. Then you can say, okay, here's sipped just once. And then you have to listen carefully. If I say, ooh, this is a strange whiskey. Oh, so this is not that good. So verbally, you can find a rating. Then sipping just once is another rating. Then I'm sipping twice. And say, well, with the second one, develops further. So tasting twice is a quality. Is giving a quality to the whiskey, and then I empty a glass with the third one. Don't spoil a drop. This is excellent. But there are a few exceptions. Sometimes I pour a little bit too much into the glass, and then even when the whiskey is very good, I can't finish the glass. Otherwise, the one I would taste afterwards will be completely covered by this huge amount of whiskey, a full centiliter in your mouth. The next one it's difficult, yeah. And also, my quality judgment depends on what I had before. The whiskey I had before, or the meal I had before. I always try to start my tastings in the evening. I don't drink alcohol over the day. In the evening and before dinner, so that my taste buds are quite uninfluenced by what I had before. But sometimes if you had a sharp meal at noon, it might have an influence. So I also try to avoid heavily spiced meals in lunch when I know I have a tasting in the evening in front of the camera. But I can't always judge in front what the cook will do. Yeah. So it depends also on the mood I have. If there was so many weird things going on in the office, if I'm recovering from a cold, if I had done too much of sports the day before, so my mood might not be optimal for a tasting. This would bring better results and worse results. So between 82.5 and 89.6, there's a huge difference which might come from my daily mood. And if I'm giving points, I have to have a very good memory of tastes. Say a kind of photographic memory transferred to the taste. And there are very few persons out there which are able to remember tastes correctly over longer years. So I'm doing these videos here since 2007. Well, in different languages, but years and years. And having tasted 1,200 whiskies already, well, the memory is difficult to have on a single bottle. And then to say, well, this might be 86 points. So therefore, I say, well, no individual points from me. I also do not like points from self-named or rewarded experts in the industry. No, this is just a single point in a huge, vast feeling of people who tasted that whiskey. So we always say, look at our whiskey database where we have tens of thousands of tasting notes from different people all around the world, putting more and more data in this whiskey database, and we increased the readability of this database by the introduction of so-called tasticons. This is like the emoticons, you know, from WhatsApp or Facebook. And these are small symbols regarding, yes, aromas and tastes. And at first I was quite not that interested, but when I saw the first results, seeing a Balvenie 12 years old, I still have to taste, I'm sorry for that, and you see the tasticons which represent the taste of the whiskey. So you say, that's it, 100%, it fits, it really fits. And so this tasticons giving the average knowledge of the people about the taste of this whiskey is much more important than what I'm giving points. What I'm doing here is giving you ideas of what is in a bottle. The first taste I have here is just an idea which is coming next, and the next day, the next week, the whiskey will develop on your taste buds, in your brain. Not too much, please. But after, say, 5 to 6 to 8 drams, you will have a much better representation of the whiskey, and diluting it with water will give different results. Waiting longer than I have time here will also lead to different aromas. So if you would give a complete 360-degree assessment of this whiskey in terms of taste and aroma and you would have to have it without water, with a little water, with much water, then having it rested for a minute, for 10 minutes, with a lid on the glass, and then, well, you do not have the time to see all this. So you have to have a heuristic feeling about what I'm saying of this whiskey. Therefore, you have to listen not only to just one video, but to many more videos, so that you can, well, rule how my mood, my feeling. I'm typically not that strong, but to find out what I'm really meaning. But this must not be true for your personal feelings. So the best thing is, have a whiskey or have a look at the whiskey videos where you have a bottle at home, and then you taste with me and you say, well, I'm finding this, no, I'm not finding that, here is completely crazy, what's the feeling there? No, not at all. So that you're critical to me, and where you find how much you are able to believe in what I'm saying. So this is important. Not the points I'm giving. No, that's too easy, far too easy. And so I do not dare to give points, and it would be unfair for certain whiskies to give them the points I'm feeling I have to give them after 10 minutes with a bottle. No, that's unfair. So even somebody calls me an expert. No, it's you. You're you're standing in the middle. So I think that's for today. And as I said in the beginning, if you want to place questions, hashtag Whisky.com without an E in front of the Y. And I'm looking over this, and every month I try to give you an FAQ, a fresh FAQ. And there will be a playlist on the channel Whisky.com on YouTube where we put all those FAQ in a sequence. Thank you for watching. There's more to come, and in the meantime, have a look at our whiskey database and look at our Tastycons and discuss our forum what you think about this. Thank you very much.